Hi, welcome. I'm Patti Oskvarek, Coaching for Inspiration with Patti, a leadership and work-life balance coach, Reiki practitioner, blogger, and podcaster. I help managers and supervisors and others to become better leaders and live a more purposeful, balanced life outside of work.
Hi, my name is Veronica Roberts from Uplift Your Life with Veronica, and I'm a well-being and money coach. And I coach individuals on living their best life, understanding themselves better to get the best from their life.
Veronica and I today wanted to discuss kindness as a strength. We also wanted to discuss self-love and self-respect. So Veronica, would you like to start and tell our audience a little bit about kindness, self-respect, and self-love?
Thank you. Yes, Patti, I was absolutely delighted when we decided to join together and just talk about these topics. And I feel that this is a perfect time in our world's history to really be tuning into these beautiful feelings and qualities that can support and just improve people's lives. I particularly love kindness because I feel it's an innate quality. So by actually purposefully bringing that to our attention and doing that, creates a sense of being true to yourself because it's an innate quality. So I'm just delighted that we're talking about this topic and we've got so many viewpoints that we share. So thanks, Patti. Over to you. Why were you so keen to absolutely join in with the kindness and the self-respect, the self-care, the self-love?
Well, being a work-life balance coach and leadership coach, I really want to focus on kindness in the workplace as well as at home. Kindness is so important for people to feel safe. When you're kind to someone and you take the time to listen, I think listening is so important, especially in the workplace, because a lot of workplaces find that they don't share kindness or empathy or anything. It's just get the job done, get the job done, get the job done, right? And
Yes.
kindness is so important because if you're kind to others and you support them and you want them to be their best self, right?
Yes.
It's going to improve the whole workplace. It's going to improve, people are going to feel safe to talk about things that come up that are bothering them or things that aren't working in the workplace when they feel safe. When they don't feel safe, they're not going to say anything. And people aren't going to treat each other kind, and they're not going to treat the employees kind. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I went to Wendy's to pick up a breakfast sandwich for my husband and I. And I could tell that the lady in the drive-in window was really not happy and upset. And I had a coupon, and I never use coupons, but I had a coupon. And so when I ordered, I thought the coupon could cover 2 orders, right? And so when I got up to the window, what she said to me for the price and what was on the overhead thing was 2 different things. And I went to question her and ask her, and I was trying to be kind and nice about why is the price different. And she just said, that's just the way it is. And I was like, wow.
Okay.
So I think that if people are kind to each other and ask questions correctly and can be able to communicate, she probably would have told me, you can only use a coupon on one order. You can't use it for two things. But she didn't communicate that to me. She just said, this is the way it
Yeah.
is. This is how much
Well,
it is. So, and then the manager came up and she said, well, she just doesn't want people to try to rip us off. And I said to her, I didn't understand about the coupon, and I wasn't trying to rip you off. And, so me communicating what I was seeing and what they were seeing were two different things, because they're used to people trying to rip them off, I guess. But I
yeah.
wasn't doing that. I just didn't understand how the coupon is used because I never use coupons. So there's a communication right there of how maybe if she said, oh, you can, because you didn't have two coupons, this is why the price is, instead of saying to me, it's this price and that's the way it is, right?
Yes. And I think, as you were saying earlier, Patty, about this, when you were saying people are rushing, let's get the thing done. So sometimes speed is against us, works against us, because we don't allow ourselves to have proper thinking about what we're doing. It's kind of all like automated rather than responding to the person in front of you. And I think you're right with that, listening as well. And when you're not rushing and you're allowing yourself to listen, then you can seek to understand, can't you? You can ask those questions to, oh well, why is she questioning this price? So using your ability, your question ability, to understand where the miscommunication is then, and then moving forward in that. So, and it's being, and you were in effect being kind to them by standing your ground and questioning it and speaking to the supervisor, so that they may necessarily not give that type of service to other people, because not everybody is out to rip people off. So yeah, there's so many pointers in there that back up this being, the kindness takes presence, doesn't it? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And I felt kind of weird about questioning it, but I wanted to understand why
Yeah.
the price was different from when I ordered it to when I got up there to pay for it. Now, the lady that was waiting on me, she thought I was challenging her. I wasn't challenging her. I was just kind of asking. I just kind of wanted to know for myself why there was a difference, triple the
Yeah.
price. you know, that's all.
Yes. It makes complete sense. That does. Yeah. And I think, as I say, I think kindness comes from the inside in its own natural quality, but when we give in the right conditions, isn't it? The space and things like that. And that's up to us to cultivate that, isn't it? To bring that forth. And so I think, one of the questions that would come up in coaching, and whether that's within the workplace or individually, is, where would someone start with regard to kindness? So where would you point people within the workplace, Patty, to how, what's their starting point for kindness?
I think that if you start showing kindness to others, you'll get kindness back, and it'll be a ripple effect. It takes one person at a time to start showing kindness, asking questions in a kind way, to understand, to really listen to what's going on, building a relationship with your coworkers, your management, your family. Sometimes we're so quick to think that somebody has an agenda instead of really listening and being kind and empathetic. When people feel safe, they will open up and be honest about situations because they feel safe. And that's what you want, whether it's at home, with your friendships, with your spouse, with your partner, with your children, with all relationships. You want to be able to have a loving, kind relationship. But as time goes on, people get comfortable, and then that's when the unkindness comes around, because they feel so safe, right? This person loves me unconditionally. You don't want to get to that point. You want to keep that kindness going on. You know, you hear all the love songs. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened in the relationship to where we're so mean to each other now?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think if you take time pausing and reflecting and self-reflect and also love yourself, if you love yourself, you can love others and treat others. Sometimes we treat others better than we treat ourselves, right?
Oh, I agree. Yeah. That's
Yes.
common.
So
Yeah.
if you think to yourself, would I treat myself like that? Some people do treat themselves badly, but that needs some healing. But if you treat your friends and your family and your coworkers and strangers with kindness, more things are going to happen along the way for you in a positive light. When you're totally mean and unkind to people, negative things, you attract that as well, right?
Oh, I quite agree. I really agree with that. And I think it's like, affirming what you've said about it's all about that building of relationships, but then also taking that self reflection and reviewing often to make sure you're still on track with that good intention of being kindness. And is there a way that you can tweak it or improve it? Or and maybe that's again about the communication and the listening, those things, because we do get caught up in life, everybody does. So it's putting in those little reminders, whether that's journaling or setting morning intentions and routines. So yeah, all those little things are kind of the starting point. Yeah, it's a lot of things covered, isn't it? It's such a big topic. Yeah, lovely. So, um, I think as well, on that theme, Patty, where you were saying about self-love and things like that, and how you would speak to yourself and how you would speak to others. What would you suggest in and around the negative mind chatter? Because that we can easily default to that if we're, one or two things go bad, and then it's a slippery slope, and we're getting into that place where we're calling ourselves names or those types of things. So what do you suggest in and around that?
Taking that time to self-reflect. Oh, what did I just do? I lost my temper. I said something that I shouldn't have said to somebody, right?
Oh God. Yeah.
There's so many times where something just comes out unfiltered instead of stopping and saying, ooh, I need to walk away from this, because if I respond, I'm gonna lash out. You're having a bad day or whatever, just taking a couple deep breaths and saying, okay, just calm down. Take a moment to pause before you reply, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think,
if
oh,
you
sorry.
do say something and later go back and apologize and say, you know what, I came across kind of out of character, or I said this and I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. Can we sit down and talk about it? Find in the workplace that that doesn't happen. People
Oh,
don't
yeah.
apologize to each other. And then what
Yeah.
does that do? That builds up resentment, that builds up not talking to each other, and it gets worse and worse and worse when it's not addressed. If people are scared to address things, why do you think that is, Veronica? That people are afraid to apologize or afraid to talk about uncomfortable situations? When you do something that is hurtful or unkind, or you say something that you possibly didn't mean, but it came out, and how do you go back and turn it into kindness by saying, I'm sorry for what I said. I shouldn't have said that. Let's sit down and talk about it. Or if you're in the heat of the moment, say, you know what, I think we both need to take a break and let's come back and talk about this later. How many people do that and should, but
Oh,
in the heat of
I,
the moment don't?
no, I know.
I've said, you know what, let's just take a break. When I was in the workplace, let's just take a break and step back and calm down and come back in an hour or so after we've done some self-reflecting on how we want to say it, right?
Yeah. Yes. I think there's so many elements in there, and I think sometimes it's about the culture of the workplace. So when you're honing in, when you're talking about that safety, if that the, the culture of the workplace is encouragement of voicing opinions and being heard without being shot down, then people are more likely to speak up, and know that they will be validated, not necessarily agreed with, but at least validated and heard. And that breeds, I believe, safety, is that, okay, I'm being heard, my viewpoint is being respected. So yeah, so that's the thing. I think often why we don't go back to those once we've parked it, there's a sense of relief that we're not getting into confrontation because it has negative connotations, when actually, if confrontation is done in a very sensible attitude, that actually is a way through, finding all the little ways to work through, and hearing each other's issues. So it's that running away from confrontation because we don't like it, and that uncomfortable feelings that we've got to tune into what our feelings are, and then obviously we're feeling those, and we don't want to lose face in front of other people. We don't want to look vulnerable. It's That's a massive strength to be vulnerable, and in a workplace, and you think, oh, I got to come back tomorrow and I got to look at that person tomorrow. These are all elements, and unless you're creating that culture of acceptance and understanding and being heard and being valued, and the framework to make sure that you find ways through so that you can agree to disagree. And those are all elements of kindness in operation. And that's what I think. What's your thoughts?
Definitely. And I'm going to go back to what you said, Veronica, about journaling. When I was in the workplace, I would encourage my employees to take time out and journal and get out all the feelings that they needed to get out, especially when they had a conflict. And it really helps you when you journal about things. You get all that ugliness out, and you're not taking it out on others. And then you can self-reflect and say, okay, how can I approach this in a different way? And how can I come up with a solution that is kind and cooperative, and be able to discuss it in a calm fashion instead of flipping out, right? And so,
Absolutely.
and taking that 5 minutes to journal out your feelings in your emotions at that moment, you're not taking it out on others, you're not lashing out, you're actually getting it all out, self-reflecting about it, and then coming up with another way to approach the situation and be able to talk that way. Also, role playing is a good way too. How are they going to react? How am I going to respond to that? Different ways you can do that in your journaling as well, especially if you know that somebody's not going to react in a kind way. You can be prepared for it, to not react, but be proactive.
Yeah, I think saying about the journaling and even the role play within the journaling is a very kind of private and soft and gentle way to approach this as brilliant first steps. So I think, yeah, you know, right on target with that, and so beneficial. And because we're talking about actually taking action and going beyond that, just rather than just parking it, oh, it's done, and leaving it, you know, because these things come up again. You're actually creating skills for yourself. And I think that's where the strength comes in, isn't it? Is that um, skill creation, that your willingness to go in uncomfortable places, isn't it? Because it does feel uncomfortable, and it's not, oh yeah, I'm rushing, I'd love to do this, you know. But that's where the strength builds from, is that willingness to go to those uncomfortable places. And you know, the gentle stepping is good, and then you're equipping yourself to be the best person, you know, and true to yourself within that workplace, or whatever relationship that you're facing. So yeah, brilliant,
And
really
it
good,
kind of,
thank you.
yeah, and it kind of goes into the self-respect, because you're actually approaching that uncomfortable situation, because you don't want it to keep coming back up or causing ill will and thinking about it. But once you talk about it, both people, you can resolve it so that you don't have that anger or resentment towards that person anymore, because it was actually addressed. And you hear their side of the story, and you say your side of the story, and then you come to an agreement. Oh, this is the way they felt, this is the way I felt. And you actually resolve things instead of letting them build and people blow up in the workplace, you know. And when I mean blow up, they lose their temper, you
Yeah,
know, and they sometimes take it out on the wrong people, right? Because they're so
yeah,
angry, they're mad at everybody. So by addressing situations and getting both sides and actually sitting down and talking about things is kindness, because you're actually getting out and being able to be heard, be seen. Each person, even if you don't agree on what their opinion is, you're at least listening and hearing what you hear. You're both hearing each other.
yes, yes. And I think picking up on that, where you're saying people, you know, blow up and things like that. actually kindness to yourself is by operating from kindness, because it's kinder to your emotional system, to your nervous system, that actual blowing up of anger, and then maybe you're tipping into doubt and guilt then afterwards. All of those are having a factor on your systems. So if you're doing that gentle work to find ways to operate from kindness, you're being kind to yourself, as well as everybody else around you. It just takes the stress out of things. So it's just, that's why we agree that that's why we see kindness as a strength, because it's a win-win situation. I would like, though, to just go on to, because I like balance, just go on to a question that did come up for me was, when is kindness unhelpful? So I have an idea in my head, and I just wondered if we were kind of like had the same idea. So what do you think? Is there a time when kindness is unhelpful?
Yes, I agree with you. People can take advantage of your kindness. You have to have boundaries because they think that, oh, you're a kind person, I can walk all over you or take advantage of you. So yes, there are times when kindness can be unhealthy. In certain situations, you do need to put up boundaries and have that self-respect of not letting people overwhelm you or take advantage of you in some kind of way, because you are a kind, compassionate person. So you do have to draw the line, and you do have to say no to things, because you might be the first person that they go to. Oh, Patti will always say yes, or Veronica will always say yes because they're a kind person. No, you don't have to say yes to everything. You say yes to what you want to say yes to, and no to the things you don't want in life.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think another little side element to that, which is it just melts all in together, is that people pleasing, isn't it?
Yes.
Where you're overextending yourself because you want to be liked and you want to feel valuable and you have a need. So then, yes, that overwhelm that you're creating for yourself by people pleasing, and then people are exactly like you say, oh, let's always go to Patti or Veronica because they've got such a good kind nature. So yeah, I think for me that was something I personally had to work through, is the people pleasing, because it kind of like feels like it's fulfilling the self-esteem to be liked, isn't it?
Mhm.
Where actually the self-esteem comes from inside of you and not the outside recognition. That's beneficial and can give you a boost, but yeah, so the people pleasing, I think, is a very unhelpful place to be in, and it can be a trap that you don't necessarily see to start with, and it's when you do get into that overwhelm and thinking, oh gosh, I'm doing everything, or, you know, people are always coming to me. That's when the reflection again, isn't it? That's what that's down
Yes,
to.
yes.
Yeah, I would
And
agree.
people pleasing is hard because you do want to be liked. And then, but I think as us as coaches, Veronica, that is one of the areas that we teach for balance, is having that ability to say no in a kind way. I mean, I've done things where with others that, I'll say, okay, say this or say this, and you're still being kind and you're still saying no, right? But you're not just flat out no. You're actually saying it in a kind way that you feel good about,
Yes,
because
yes,
I
I
I,
agree.
I can't take on anymore. I have more, I have so much going on, and being able to say, I'm sorry, I can't do it right now, and feeling good about the way that you say it to that other person when you're telling them that you can't do it.
Yes, yes, I would agree. And there was another little strand in there where I was thinking around being unhelpful to be kind is if you're not being honest, because you can
Mm,
be honest in a kind way. Whereas sometimes if you tip into the people pleasing, then when somebody needs some genuine feedback or genuine support, um, I think there's a way through kindness to be able to deliver that, to give them your honest opinion, because everything is based on opinion. So it's only your opinion that you're giving. You're not necessarily, sort of saying this is the way and that's it.
yeah,
But if somebody is genuinely needing that support or that guidance to actually be honest, even though it might be uncomfortable, that's vitally important. And I think I'm sure you would absolutely agree with me as coaches that we don't shy away from the being uncomfortable because it's the growth, the expansion, the development of our people that we're searching for. And so then we are, I believe, going to talk in the realms of truth, but in a kind way. Is that how you would approach it?
definitely, because you're helping that person by being honest and
Yeah.
telling them, what you're seeing. I observed this,
Yes.
and what do you think about that? You know, and this is
Yeah.
what I observed. This is what I saw. This is what that action took when that behavior happened. How do you want to the outcome to come the next time?
Yeah.
Do you want that outcome different than what happened or transpired? And how can you change that to make a more positive outcome?
Yeah. And I think as well, this circles back to where you had started, Patty, is that sense of safety, because truth is such solid ground that it breeds safety again, I believe, because um, again, you're supporting and the framework is consistent, isn't it? When you're being truthful, it's consistent. It's not one way this day, and I'm feeling not so good today, so the feedback will be a completely different one, and this, that, the other. So yeah, so I think that circles back round to that cultivating safety within relationships, within the workplace, within business in general. So yeah, definitely important. The truth. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to hear the truth, but it gives you some self-reflection, and it is helpful because you do want to be a better person and to know how other people are feeling as well by how you interact with them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just makes complete sense. It's like, how do we miss this out? Isn't it? When people are rushing, isn't it? It gets overlooked. But we've covered so much already just in this chat, and where it can just fit and slide in with so many areas. And all of them are important. I think, you know, like they just work together and just create a whole, isn't it? And then it's back to that being true to yourself and foundation stages for that self love and the boundaries. Yeah, Yeah, perfect. I don't know, did I have another question? Oh, right, this question. I'd love to ask this of yourself, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I have a question. How do you feel, and which ways do you feel that you've grown in your kindness, Patty? How have you developed in that way?
For me, Veronica, I think as time has gone on and I've really learned to self-reflect that how my actions cause a chain reaction to others has been a growing experience for me. And really listening to others and how we each play a role in our relationship with each other and how we talk to each other, how we treat each other. I think that kind of opened up my eyes a lot, especially when I was a manager and supervisor, especially at the beginning of how you interact with your employees, how I've interacted with my husband and my children, and just reflecting back how I could have done things differently and learned from those different experiences. And actually, as time went on, I started self-reflecting more and stopped some of the behavior and habits that I was doing with my interaction. And that's how I became more kind. I'm not saying that I still don't backslide, but not as much as I used to, because doing the work on yourself helps you to be a kinder and nicer person, I feel. What about you, Veronica?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you absolutely said it all there, and about that self-reflecting, because that is that mirror having a look on, oh, okay, you've got outcomes here. How did they arise? Okay, let's look at the mirror and do that. And as you say, when you work on yourself, then that is developing muscles of kindness, isn't it? It's so much easier for it to be the new habit, like you said, because everybody's susceptible to not so good habits. So yeah, so you working on yourself with the reflection and the continuing and growing, and the inner work. Yeah, that does make for a generally um, self-affirming positive habits. And there was something else I was going to say in there. Um, oh gosh, what was I going to say? I think as well for me, is where I feel that I've grown in kindness is the personal responsibility. I think so that, okay, there's as you say, within the relationship, there's two people here, and it's my responsibility to create a better outcome that I want. It's exactly like you said, it's those chain reactions, and they will pop up a time and time again, so that you get the lessons of finessing how you can be kind. Those are, sort of like little gems that come up to help me to be a better person. And be kind in a different setting with a different person with a different attitude and circumstances. And it's about also being kind to myself, not beating myself up when I do backslide and I do get it wrong. And thinking, okay, this is a new setting, this is a new person, this is a new circumstance. Yeah, I still need to teach myself. Yeah, in that place too. Yeah, so yeah, I think there's so many golden nuggets throughout this conversation that I think we could keep our people really busy just listening to this conversation. And if there's some things that they take away from it that enhances their lives and the people the relationships they're in, it would really make my day. It really would. Yeah. Yeah. How do
And
you feel?
yeah, Veronica, one of the things too is if you're in a toxic environment, it's hard for you to self-reflect, and because you're in that toxic and you're going to be pulled into it as well. So that is something else that you also need to reflect on, is when you're in that type of environment, it's not healthy for you, and it's hard not to react in a non-positive way because you're under stress, you're in this environment that is hostile. And that's where you have to start making decisions for yourself. Is this somewhere where I want to be anymore? Things like that. You can try to be kind and try to change the environment, but what if that environment won't change?
Yeah.
Those are some things that you have to think about for yourself. Is this really where I want to be? How can I make a change? What action steps can I make to get out of this toxic environment? Can I change this toxic environment? Is this toxic environment good for me? Am I going home and taking that
Oh
toxicity,
my God.
excuse me, with me home? Those type of things. Do I really need to make a change in my environment because it's not healthy for me? I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people are in toxic environments and it's rubbing off on them. They're jaded. They're not the same person anymore that they used to be.
Mm.
What do I need to do to get my old self back? Those are some
Yeah.
of the things that, and people feel stuck and can't get out.
Yes.
You can make changes.
Yes, that's so raw and real, isn't it? As you say, the toxic environments. And sometimes you don't realize until you are taking it home with you, and then the family life isn't quite how it used to be. And then that can serve as the pointer for you. And the good thing is, like you said, it's about making decisions, which leads back to you being able to choose. And maybe you can't choose immediately a solution in that very moment, and you have to sort of work your way through it for the in the short term. But if you set that intention and that willingness to have a solution, an alternative, to make a change, and maybe the inner strength and courage to get out of the situation or stand up and get the situation changed, which, you know,
Mhm.
that's where you double down in kindness on yourself to back up your courage, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a very real situation, raw, and yeah, it's kind of one that can get into habits as well. You've kind of lowered your level of living to match that environment, which isn't a good thing, you know. So, and then actually you making decisions, standing up for yourself and making changes is a kind act in itself, because that shows your empowerment, which can be inspiration and motivational to others, that change can happen, it is possible. You know, there are alternatives and possibilities and opportunities that are out there, so that yes, you can deliberately make decisions and choices and to tune into that, and make that as your focus, the place to head to, the place to give you the, what's that word I'm looking for? To give you the hope that things can be and will be better. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people feel uncomfortable talking about that. They feel uncomfortable being in that type of environment and don't know how to get out, and having an action plan of hope and putting it into action so that you can get out of that kind of environment or habit or behavior. You're helping yourself, you're helping others, you're helping your home life, your work life, all of those things so that you can be happy.
Yeah. And I think this comes back around to where coaches are so valuable, because we're out from the situation, so then we can give a very balanced view. We are the cheerleaders for you. So when the doubt and the nerves arise, that we can show you the way forward, we can support you, we can be the listening ear, we can be, yeah, you're doing it right, you're on the right track, this is for your best outcome and things like that. So I think that's where, the valuable insights and support and guidance and care from coaches comes for you. And it's independent, because we don't have an agenda other than for you to improve. Whereas sometimes, like, other people have, say it's like a family member or something, no, we want you to keep your job because we don't, the pay packet is so valuable, or the boss is like, well, I have, targets and things like that. They're all coming with agenda, so they're going to give that pressure onto you. And whereas a coach, we don't do that. We give you the bigger picture so that you can make your clean decisions for yourself. And that's what it is we operate in that clean environment, as in, yeah, wanting the best for you and supporting you, and your decisions are what we, agree with and back you up with. So yeah, and that can be completely life changing. And that's the value of the coach, is your life can completely change, and there's that support in there, so yeah, and we all need those cheerleaders and people who've got our backs, and yeah, and listening, to the grumblers and the blowouts. We can listen to blowouts, and and that's okay. That's okay, because in that moment, that's what we had to do, and then we regroup and get you back on track again. Yeah, so
Yes,
so valuable. That's what I think, anyway. I'm
I
sure you
agree.
absolutely agree. Yes.
I do. So Veronica, where can people find you if they want to follow you or get in
I'm
contact with you?
Lovely. Thank you so much for opening up the conversation. I really enjoyed the chat and everything like that. And I definitely have such a passion to help people. And so mostly I'm on Facebook. I am just going into Instagram, and then I will be on YouTube with just a
Yay!
couple of little steps. It's just getting there. And so those are all my forward plans. I am a little bit on Instagram, but most active on Facebook. And as I say, my website is Uplift Your Life with Veronica, or on Facebook, I'm Veronica Roberts, and I've got a blue hat on and a cream top, So yes, yes. Well, I'm so glad you invited me to this. I really enjoyed our conversation. How
Well,
about you, Patty?
thank
What
you.
do people know from your podcast where to reach you and everything like that? Yes.
Yeah. My website is coachingforinspirationwithpatti.com, and Patti spelled Patti.
Mhm.
That has pretty much everything on it. It has my podcasts, my coaching, my Reiki, all different types of subjects, my blogs. So it's all in one place. I have two podcasts. One I co-host with Angela Ambrosia, and it's called Building Better Relationships at Home and at Work with Angela and Patti. And my other podcast is a mini podcast, which is for managers and supervisors, and it's called Exploring Life and Work with Patti, From Chaos to Calm. And I talk about all different kinds of things that happen in situations as a manager, and I ask questions for people to self-reflect, and I also give an affirmation. And both podcasts are monthly.
Wow, lovely. Oh my gosh, so much help out there for people.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
fantastic.
thank you everybody for listening, and I hope you got a lot out of this conversation that Veronica and I had. Please leave your comments wherever you see this broadcasted. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.